Hey, it's Sam from Sugar Spun Run, and today we are going to be making Neapolitan cookies. This recipe would be equally good for a summertime treat or for a fun and unique addition to your Christmas cookie platter. I personally think they're great for when the weather is a little bit too chilly for actual ice cream, but you still want all of those flavors. This recipe is going to dirty a couple of bowls, but it all starts with one base cookie dough, and all things considered, it's quite simple. So I'm really excited for you to try this one. Let's get right into it. Grab yourself a large mixing bowl, and to this we're going to add 1 cup of softened unsalted butter. We're going to add 1.5 cups of granulated sugar. And while today's recipe could be made in a stand mixer using a paddle attachment, today I'm just going to be using my electric hand mixer instead. Now we'll cream together the butter and sugar. And we want to cream these together really well until everything is light and fluffy and creamy, and everything is nicely combined. All right, this is what I'm talking about. Everything is really well combined, and it's always a good idea anytime you're mixing to periodically stop and scrape the sides and bottom of your bowl to make sure that you are getting all of your ingredients well incorporated. All right, now we will add our eggs. You're going to need 2 large eggs, and ideally these should be at room temperature. We're gonna crack them in a separate bowl. Oh, and I was trying to be fancy, but these are store-bought eggshells, and they're a lot weaker than I'm used to. All right, let me see if I can do better with one of my eggs. There we go. Someone needs to give their chickens more oyster shells. All right, let's stir these eggs into our butter and sugar mixture until they're well incorporated. Look at the difference in the egg yolk color. Okay, I'm gonna stop bragging about my chickens right now. I can't really brag about them because they're not laying me enough eggs that I don't still have to buy some from the store, so there are some drawbacks. All right, let's slide this out of the way and grab a separate bowl for your dry ingredients. For today's recipe, I'm going to be using cake flour instead of all-purpose flour. I like this because it gives the cookies a softer, finer crumb. The texture just somehow made me think more ice cream than all-purpose flour did, but I will include notes over on the blog post in the recipe notes in case you want to or have to use all-purpose flour instead. Now, if I didn't already say it, this is 4 cups of cake flour. And to this, we are going to start by adding a tablespoon of cornstarch. Now these cookies are going to look like ice cream scoops. Like you scoop them and they look like you just scooped some chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. So the cornstarch and the large amount of flour, these are 2 key ingredients that are going to help the cookies hold that shape. That's not something I always want in a cookie. Normally we want a little bit of spread, but here we want them to hold their shape. We're also going to be adding 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And this is another contributing ingredient to getting that texture and shape we want. We're going to add just 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. For our salt, we'll be adding 3/4 teaspoon of table salt. And we'll whisk everything together until it's nicely combined. You want to make sure all of your leavening agents and your cornstarch are well distributed. All right, now we are going to gradually add our dry ingredients to our butter mixture. And this is going to make a pretty stiff dough, so don't add all of the flour at once, or that will make it difficult for the flour to be absorbed by the wet ingredients. And you could end up just with a really dry and crumbly dough that just takes a while to combine. So we'll add everything gradually. Add the flour in like 4 or 5 parts. Part 3. And our last bit of our dry ingredients. Well, last bit for now. We have a couple things we'll be adding in a little bit. But not yet. All right, now remember what I said earlier. We want to scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl. Make sure all of that flour is worked in. Nothing's hiding on the sides because we want to have a uniform cookie dough. All right, so up to this point, we haven't added any flavor to our dough. You may have noticed there's no vanilla extract in here. That's because first we're going to divide the cookie dough, and then we are going to add our chocolate, our vanilla, and our strawberry. Now we're going to need to divide this dough into 3 parts. We're going to put each part in a separate bowl, and if you want to be exact about this, which I do, you are going to need about 360 grams of dough per bowl. 1 portion. Part number 2, and then for the last one, I'm just going to leave it in this mixing bowl because that'll save us a dish. All right, to one of the bowls, we're going to add our vanilla flavoring. I wanted a vanilla bean flavor and some fun vanilla bean specks just because that felt more like vanilla ice cream to me. So we're going to be using vanilla bean paste. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla bean paste. Now, if you don't have vanilla bean paste, if you absolutely can't find vanilla bean paste, you could just use a teaspoon of vanilla extract instead. It's not exactly the same flavor, but it will work. You'll still have good cookies. Now I'm going to stir this in. And then once that's combined, I'm also going to add in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. This is also going to help bulk up that cookie dough, keep it from spreading too much, and it's going to get it to be the same consistency as our other 2 doughs will be once we've added the flavors to those. All right, scrape the sides and our vanilla bean dough is ready. And isn't it beautiful with those little flecks in there? All right, let's make our next bowl of dough strawberry flavor. You're going to need 1/3 cup of freeze-dried strawberry powder. So I have the strawberries, now I just need to grind them into a powder. If you're using a scale, you'll need 15 grams of strawberry powder, and I do prefer to use a scale because then I can just measure it before I blend up the strawberries. I love this little tool right here. Now I want to make sure I've ground this into a fine powder. That looks pretty fine to me. Try not to sneeze on it. We're going to add this into our dough. It smells so good. And if you're going to use your beaters, you'll want to clean them between mixing up your doughs. I'm going to see if I can work this into the dough using a spatula, just so I don't have to clean the beaters. Now you'll notice we're not adding vanilla extract to this dough or vanilla bean paste, and that is because the vanilla in this dough would bully the strawberry flavor. We want a very bright, vibrant strawberry flavor, and plus in every bite you should be getting some of that vanilla as well, which will complement it without overwhelming the bright strawberry flavor in this section of dough. Now, if you wanted this to be even brighter pink, you could add food coloring, but honestly, I've been very happy with how the color has turned out without adding any food coloring. All right, this looks great. Let's move on to our last cookie dough, which of course is going to be chocolate. We're going to add 3 tablespoons of natural cocoa powder, and we'll stir this in, and I'm okay using these beaters here. So we get a little bit of vanilla there. It's not going to be a big deal in the chocolate. Cocoa powder is pretty dry, so it's a little bit of work to mix that in by hand. I'm here for cookies, not for a workout. All right, next thing we need to do is prepare our dough for scooping. I like to assemble this just like if it were a carton of Neapolitan ice cream. So to do that, I'm going to slide or scoot all of this strawberry dough over to one side. Scraped up as much of the excess dough as I could. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now let's grab our vanilla. I always like to put the vanilla in the center. And you don't have to use this exact bowl, but this size does work really nicely. I will try to remember to link to it in the description. I imagine you could probably also use a 9x5 bread pan, which would really give you an ice cream shape. Scrape all of that cookie dough out of there. I don't like to leave any behind. Squeeze the vanilla into the center and try to make this nice and even. Does not have to be exact. And finally, our chocolate. Use my hands a little bit for this one. Again, no dough left behind. I already have a lot of bowls to wash. All right, get that chocolate in there. We have our 3 parts of cookie dough. And I do like to smush them down a little bit because I want to make sure that they are touching all the way down to the bottom of the bowl. Otherwise you'll have like weird gaps when you go to scoop the dough. All right, now this dough does need to chill some. So we're going to cover it with plastic wrap and then we'll pop it in the refrigerator. It's going to need to chill for at least 60 minutes. Once the dough is getting close to being finished chilling, when you're about ready to use it, get your oven preheating to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, once your dough has chilled, we can start scooping our cookies. Let's go ahead and uncover this. Now I'm going to be using a 1.5 tablespoon sized scoop, but my cookies are going to end up quite a bit bigger than this. We're going to scoop this just as if you were scooping ice cream. So go ahead and you want to hit all of the flavors. So I kind of go sort of shallow into the first flavor, which is strawberry, then into the vanilla and the chocolate. So you can see it's kind of overflowed some. Now I'm going to drop this into my hand, and I only like to gently reshape this because I want it to look like a scoop of ice cream. So go ahead and drop that there. Now, if you don't want the colors to bleed into each other too much, it's a good idea to wipe the cookie scoop clean between scoops. And I rotate sides. So first I started with strawberry. This time I'm going to start with chocolate. And wiping it clean between scoops is optional. It doesn't really get that messy. It just kind of looks like you've scooped a lot of Neapolitan ice cream if you don't wipe it clean. You see it's a little bit lopsided when you scoop it, at least if you scoop like I do. So I just sort of use my hand to flatten the bottom. Ta-da! And I didn't wipe the scoop clean between scoops that time, so you can see how the chocolate is sort of a little bit muddied there. So my first scoop came out kind of large, but I would say these usually end up being about 2 tablespoons. All right, last scoop for this tray. All right, we'll take these over to our 375 degree Fahrenheit preheated oven. They're going to bake in the center rack for about 9 minutes. A good visual cue you can look for is for the very edges to just be beginning to turn a very light golden brown. Look how cute these are, and you can see there's some very, very light browning beginning to happen on the very edges. It's very light golden brown. You don't want to overbake these or else they'll be dry inside, and we want them to be soft and chewy and melt in your mouth. Now these are going to need to cool completely on the baking sheet, and they will actually appear underbaked until they have cooled for like at least an hour. It takes a while for them to look baked all the way through because they are a really thick cookie. Now, once they have cooled, I want to show you what the bottoms look like. You can see they're just a light brown color. These are cooked perfectly. I'm really happy with them, and I'm really excited for you to try them at home. I mean, let's try this. Look at that. Obviously, they're not really ice cream, but these are a very fun cookie. I'm so excited for you to try them at home, and if you do, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.
I want to get taste tested.
Do you want to? Okay, which one do you want?
I want the biggest one, that one.
Okay, go for it. Pick that one. Should I pick this one? Mm-hmm. Okay, cheers. Let's try it. What do you think? It's so good? Do you love it? It really is good, huh?